Just win, baby. That is the mantra of the Raiders organization. It's just sin, baby, because they're now in Vegas because they sure enough ain't winning. We'll talk about that more here on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
It is, in fact, your team every day here on Locked On NFL. We thank you for making us your first listen. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On NFL podcast that you can find twice a day, wherever you get your podcast, whether you watch or listen. We'll be right there. We don't want you to miss an episode. One of those places is Amazon Music. Swing on over to Amazon Music for ad-free coverage of this podcast and others. Over on Amazon Music, you don't want to miss an episode like the one that we're doing right now. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Shout out to the everydayers that join us each and every day. And if you're new here, we'll give you a reason to come back and be an everydayer yourself. Here's a rundown of what we do here. We go around the league, Matt Matt Williamson, of course, from the Peacock and Williamson podcast, one of the OGs of Locked On NFL. We're going to go around the league and use the clips from local experts that have their finger on the pulse of their local team to help us find out what's going on with them. And then, of course, here's what we do on Fridays. In the third segment, we whip around and pick them. We do our absolute best to pick the winner of these games. I usually leave that up to Matt because I'm just not really good at it. All right, right in the middle, I have not talked to Matt about the big trades at the deadline. We'll focus on Dallas and the Jets and where they are. I don't believe anyone lost. I think both teams won for whatever they had to do. But we're going to start talking about Vegas. Sin City ain't no win city. I had a lot of expectations when I saw Pete Carroll take that job and John Spytek, who I have a lot of respect for, who came from Tampa. And I have a lot of respect for Tom Brady, obviously, and he has his hand in ownership. This just has not gone the way we thought. They got Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers, two guys. I love both of them in the draft, still like them both as players. They just can't block nobody on the offensive line, and they don't really have playmakers outside of Maxx Crosby there, Matt.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just a talent issue, especially on defense. I mean, preseason or, off season, I thought back seven just does not have players, and let's not forget Christian Wilkins was a guy they were counting on heavy, and he just disappeared off the planet and no one seems to want to touch him. So the defense doesn't shock me at all. It's as bad as it is, although they didn't play too bad last night. The offensive line is vastly underachieving. That to me is a huge concern. But I'm kind of with you, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but many things I said on our other podcast, with Peacock was, man, I think they upgraded with ownership, Brady. I think they upgraded with GM. I'm just going down the ladder here. Upgraded with head coach, upgraded with offensive coordinator, upgraded with quarterback. That's a lot of good things to upgrade at, let alone running back and some of the other things they did. I thought they'd still be fourth in the division, but I thought they'd be much more formidable and would have taken a noticeable step forward. And I don't see any of that.
No, I don't see it either. You definitely didn't see it last night, only being able to score 7 points in the game against the Denver Broncos, who we'll discuss in a minute. But first, I got to hear from Q Myers of Locked On Raiders about last night's result.
Q Myers here from the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thursday Night Football officially in the books. The Raiders, they drop it to the Denver Broncos 10-7. They dropped their overall record now to 2-7, and it was just a litany of mistakes for the Silver and Black. Interception, punt block, field goal missed. Geno banged up. 11 penalties accepted by Denver. Hell, they had 11 penalties too. Just a bunch of mistakes throughout the course of the night. The Raiders really found a way to lose this game, and something that was probably a lot closer than most people expected. But weird things happen on Thursday Night Football in a division rival type game. So the Raiders take the L. They drop to 2-7. Pete Carroll and company ride back to Vegas looking for some answers. And of course, we'll have plenty of answers. I know there's a lot of questions. We'll go over all of that on the next edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast coming up on Friday. So make sure to check that out.
There's my man Q Myers, and he couldn't have said it best. A lot of stuff went wrong, and it's been going wrong all year. Look, I think Geno's fine. I just don't think Geno is the guy they need for this particular team at this juncture of what I call a rebuild or a rebrand for Raiders football. And a lot of people have a lot of questions too about the opponent. Tyler Rowland has questions. You saw it on Locked On NFL on the AM show, where he believes Denver can't be trusted, mainly probably because of Bo Nix. They only scored 10 points. That's all they needed. Now, that's all they needed. They scored. Look, Tom Brady, who owns part of the Raiders, won a Super Bowl scoring 10 points, right? But this isn't the Super Bowl. This is a game that Denver wanted to show their stuff. They showed it on one side of the ball, not necessarily on the other. Here's my man Cody Rourke from the press box last night in Denver for the Broncos win.
The Denver Broncos improved to 8-2 on the season after a win on Thursday Night Football, and Sean Payton must be thanking his lucky stars for Vance Joseph and the Broncos defense. The Broncos defense in this game sacking Geno Smith and the Las Vegas Raiders 6 times to put them far ahead of everybody else in the league lead. 46 sacks for them on the season through 10 games after Thursday's performance. The Broncos defense has been carrying the water all season long, and they carried the boats here on Thursday Night Football on a night where Bo Nix and the Broncos offense, they were terrible. Simply put, they were not effective, and that trend cannot continue if the Broncos hope to go far in the NFL postseason. With the Broncos now sitting at 8-2, that's great, but now they got a matchup next week against the Kansas City Chiefs, and the concerns on offense are valid, and it's problematic. For more, make sure you check out Locked On Broncos.
Look, a win is a win in the NFL. I keep telling people, Green Bay, you take the wins when you can get the wins. But if you're looking forward, they do have a lot of improvement to do offensively if they want to go where their record indicates they have a chance to get to, Matt.
Yeah, but boy, they have a pass rush, and they didn't even have Surtain, and they have a great defense. It's going to keep them in just about every game, even when they're playing Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, whoever in the postseason. They also have an offensive line. It's a brutal place to play. It's probably the hardest place to play in the league. Mm-hmm. But I'm with the Knicks doubters. I mean, I think Knicks is just very uneven, streaky at this stage of his career. But I think we've talked about this, Wig. I mean, these young quarterbacks, they're all going to be like that. Yeah, I mean, it's just, let's not write the book on them yet, you know?
I think they're all going to be like that. I think more teams need to start taking advantage of the fact that there's a rookie salary cap. And what I mean by that is when you get a quarterback, stop rushing them. Stop throwing them on the field. And these owners got to get in line with these GMs. Look, there's no rush. You got him for the future. In terms of Bo Nix, I don't know if this is a rush issue. I think this is a ceiling issue. This is kind of who he is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there's this misconception that he is Alex Smith, paint by numbers, move the chains, do exactly what Coach Payton tells me to do. And he's a lot more of a gambler than that, for good or bad,
Yeah, for good or bad. One good thing I will tell you about Denver, to piggyback on your defense part of it. Sean Payton is an offensive guru, known as that anyway. If there's a chance that an area needs to improve, it comes from within him. The other thing that he benefits from, that Philly and Kansas City benefit from, is between Steve Spagnuolo, Vance Joseph, who is in Denver, and of course in Philly with Vic Fangio. They have defensive coordinators that probably won't get another chance to be a head coach. So they'll be able to have that consistency. And I've been telling people all along, that's what saved KC. As much as I love Andy Reid, what saved KC is ain't nobody hiring Steve Spagnuolo at this point. So he gets to sit there and be basically the Bud Carson, if you will, of that defensive side of the ball, the Dick LeBeau of that, and just consistently be there all the time without change. And I think it could benefit them in the future.
That's a tremendous point, and Spagnuolo is probably the best example in NFL history.
Yep, no doubt about it. All right, man, here's what we're going to do. We are going to talk about the trades. I know the deadline went by, but guess what? Matt was busy. I was busy. We haven't really discussed it. But now the teams are getting used to the new players that they acquired. I'm not going to touch on Sauce Gardner. We did that yesterday, but I will talk about Dallas adding 2 players and speak on the Jets getting all of those picks. We'll do it in just a second here on Locked On NFL. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Mint Mobile. If you're overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overage, no hidden fees, no BS. I said yes to making the switch and getting premium wireless for just $15 a month. Mint makes it simple. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can even bring your own phone and keep your same number and contacts. What makes it special, man, is there's just no BS. I'm tired of the BS when I'm dealing with these services, and Mint Mobile makes that very, very comfortable for me. Ready to say yes to saying no? Make the switch to mintmobile.com/lockedonnfl. That's mintmobile.com/lockedonnfl. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 a month. Limited time, new customer offer for just the first 3 months only, and speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan, taxes and fees. Extra. See Mint Mobile for details. And today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Game Time. When it's time to get tickets to NFL games here in the middle of the season, honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. You need to go to Game Time. Let's just be honest, though. Getting tickets can be a hassle between queues, login screens, prices jumping all over the place at checkout. It can be very frustrating. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included. So the price you see, well, that's the price you pay. I pulled up Game Time, and in just a couple of taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games as low as $100. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first. All right, moving and rolling along here on Locked On NFL, where it is your team every day. Tony Wiggins along with Matt Williamson. When y'all see us together, that means it's Friday. You know what Friday is. Just got paid Friday night, and it means that there's football all weekend going on. There was football last night, and we're going to talk about teams that hopefully will be playing meaningful football at one point in their future. The first one is the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry said they were going to make a move. Now, I'm going to give Jerry an attaboy here, and I'm going to tell you why. Because they entered the trade deadline with their own first and second round picks in 26 and 27. 27, by the way, Matt, is a loaded draft, right? I trade everything I could right now for Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State, but that's enough. That's enough. But they also had their first and second in 2027. They went and got Logan Wilson, a linebacker, a very good stack linebacker from Cincinnati, but the main addition was Quinnen Williams, the defensive tackle, all-pro defensive tackle for the New York Jets. And they still have 3 of those first-round picks. They only gave up 1. It will be the whichever one is the highest in 2027 between the Jets and the Cowboys, and then they gave up a second-round pick next year. I thought it was a really, really good move on Jerry's part to add players that are going to be a part of the Cowboys' future and their present.
I did too. And I know people are looking at it like, if you swap out Parsons for Williams and Clark, you can't look at it that way. They're two separate deals. It's not the same thing. I mean, times have changed. Real quick, just an overriding theme of the trade deadline, I thought it was a seller's market. I thought teams got more for players than I had expected. And I think the big reason for that, and this is what the NFL wants, is there's probably 22, 24 teams that still think they're kind of in it. You know, like the league is great that way with 7 playoff spots. There's not as many sellers as there has been. So there's more buyers. I had a really good talk with Marcus Mosher off the air, who hosts Locked On Cowboys. And his take on it, which I think is really smart, is this isn't a move for this year. Mm-hmm. That they very much believe in Dak. They think they can be a real contender next year. Draft defense like crazy, a lot of young speed with their draft picks, which they absolutely need. They have Lamb, they have Quinnen, they got Dak all under contract, the entire O-line set, and probably bring back Pickens. You know, the offense is fine, to say the least. So one infusion of draft speed on defense with Quinnen Williams next to Clark. And I don't think their DNs are bad. Like Ezeraku is a good player. You know, I mean, you know, so they have a couple guys. So I think that makes sense, and meanwhile, you might compete this year a little bit more, but I think it's a move for next year.
And then Overshawn will have another year removed from
Good
that
point.
devastating injury, and he'll be back to his form. Dallas is drafted well. I often just wondered if
Always
they were good at team building. But you mentioned Marcus Mosher here. Let's hear from him and Landon McCool discuss exactly that, the impact of those defensive players.
I just don't understand how you could feel that negative about what the Cowboys did. They took these picks and they went and got a better player. They've improved their team. Like I like ultimately at the end of the day, isn't that what the point is? Like the point is to have the potential to pick a player like Quinnen Williams, and all the arguments that people used against the Cowboys you could a draft pick could be anything. It could be Micah Parsons. Suddenly they forgot all those arguments now that the Cowboys are trading for a known quantity and getting something in return. It's kind of frustrating.
Yeah, and it's not like this trade has robbed them of all their flexibility.
No.
Again, they have a ton of draft capital over the next 2 years.
Look, I'm giving you a little basketball analogy. There's these things on social media. My son sends them to me all the time. You got these two teams of great NBA players, right? And they'll say, which one do you take? Well, as soon as I look, if I see Michael Jordan on one of them, I go that one.
Yeah.
And only time I kind of buckle a little bit is if I see Kobe on the other side and LeBron. And I'm like, okay, that might be a little bit too much to overcome. But if I see Michael Jordan and Kobe and Magic Johnson on the same team, I just don't even look at the other side. I say it's a no-brainer. So when you look at these trades, anytime you mention Micah Parsons, I'm going to go, whoever got him won, right?
Yeah.
He's just that good. But I will tell you this. This comes down to Dallas trading away Micah Parsons in the second-round pick and getting back Logan Wilson, Quinnen Williams, and a first-round pick.
And Clark.
And Kenny Clark. So
yeah.
It doesn't quite look as lopsided. I think Quinnen Williams is a really, really good player, and he
Really
should retire a Cowboy right now.
Yeah, I think that's the key is let's not overlook getting a big-time defensive tackle in a pretty much cost-controlled situation in his prime that's a top 5 player at his position and can impact the game, and they've been bad there for a long time,
Yeah, no doubt about it. Now, there's a flip side to it, and that is the New York Jets in a different situation. I don't blame them one bit for what they did with trading who they traded and getting all of those picks. They are absolutely loaded with draft choices. The thing is what are they going to do with them? And that is the key. What it means to me is that there's no way you jettison all of those people if you're not going to keep Aaron Glenn and at least allow him to continue to build this team because you basically said it was the team. It's not the coach, because you don't make wholesale changes like this if you think it's the coach. Here's my man John Butchko to talk about that from Locked On Jets.
To get something, you have to give up something. And Jets gave up quite a bit. But what they got are big opportunities, because when you add that to the picks the Jets already had, they now have 8 picks in either the first or second round in the next 2 NFL drafts. That's the type of bounty that can help turn a team around quickly. There's no better way to turn your team around than by hitting on picks in the NFL draft. It's a lot easier to hit on picks in the NFL draft when you've got a lot of early selections. A contender can be built in 2 to 3 really strong draft classes. The Jets now have the draft capital to potentially nail 2 straight drafts. And if they do, they can move from the bottom of the league to the top of the league very quickly.
You know what else they have? They have 2 really good young offensive tackles.
Yes. I was thinking to it. Yep.
And that's a good start when you think about what the other stuff that they have, Matt.
That's the best building block outside a quarterback to be, that you can have. And like I was about to use the Chargers as an example, but their guys are all banged up and we're seeing the problem there. I love that team build. I love this for the Jets. I think they got a lot back. I'm a draft pick guy. Build. But history isn't real kind to this organization. And I don't know if it's, will the GM be back? Will the coach be back? I lean towards yes, probably, especially on the coaching front, how you said. But ownership is meddlesome, and do they get in the way? And, they had 3 first-round picks when they took Sauce and Garrett Wilson and Jermaine Johnson and hit on all of them. And Jets fans are probably like, yeah, we hit on all 3 and we didn't get any better.
Yep. Yeah, that's a critical point. I got a theory when it comes to drafting. I think, and I've been told this, a lot of people say, well, they're going to do this. Why didn't they do it like Dallas why didn't them in Dallas, why they do it in the offseason and get picks this year? Teams actually know which drafts are strong, and 2026 was considered weak. 2025 was weak.
Yeah,
26 is good, and 27 is going to be loaded. Now, I know everybody's saying, well, we always talk about these quarterbacks. I'm not talking about the quarterback position. I'm talking about other spots. There's a lot of really good young college talent, and I think teams absolutely look ahead and say, no, I'd rather have picks next year than have picks this year.
The one thing I can't agree more with was everyone thinks every draft is good. This past draft wasn't very good. I mean, just even look at like the rookie of the year candidates. They're okay. They're not great, especially on defense.
Yep, no doubt about it. All right, we're going around the league. We're going to try to pick us some games. Well, no, Matt's going to pick him some games. That's what we're going to do. I'm going to take that pressure off myself. We'll do that in just a second here on Locked On NFL. All right, today's show and episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season. Whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both, there's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere. Prize Picks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. I'm going to go more on whatever Travis Etienne's rushing total is this week, because I think the Jaguars are going to give a healthy dose of the running game in Houston. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Time to pick us some games, Maddie, like we do each and every week. I'll piggyback off of you with this. We're going to start in Carolina. Don't look now. We used to laugh when we saw Carolina. Don't look now, but the fighting Julian Councils of Charlotte are sitting there at 5-4, and they got some good wins against some good teams.
Yeah, and this is not a good team they're playing. I think they'll run all over the Saints. Yeah, they run on everybody.
Saints, yeah, they sure do. Saints are 1-8, and one of those teams sitting there rebuilding. All right. The Bears are 5-3, playing against the Giants, who might be the hardest 2-7 team to play in the National Football League because they can jump up and bite you. And the Chargers learned that a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and I'm a little worried if I'm a Bears fan. Like, are you really that good on this streak? I'm still going to pick them to win at home, but their defense leaves a lot to be desired.
It does. My Jacksonville Jaguars travel to Houston, where 2 of my daughters live. Hey, babies, how y'all doing? All right. Y'all might be 2 of the only Jaguar fans in the city this week. What do you think about this game, Matty? Jags are 5-3, Texans at 3-5, and a critical game because the Jaguars are only 2 games behind the Colts, and they still play them twice.
Yeah, no Stroud. Jacksonville coming off a bye. I think Jacksonville's in a really good spot here and basically eliminates the Texans.
Quick correction. They came off a bye last week and won an overtime game against the Raiders. But,
Okay.
But they have had problems with back. Jake Browning has beat them twice. They cannot go to sleep on Davis Mills. Backup quarterback is one of the smartest guys on the team. You better watch that stuff. And usually when backups play, that first game is their best game, and then people get the tape and figure it out why they're a backup.
Good point.
The Bills at 6-2, they go on the road to play those Ferraris down in Miami.
They're running the ball so well. I think they just control the total game on the ground. James Cook, that O-line,
Growing up a little bit defensively, too. They showed that against the Chiefs last week, and they look like a serious threat to have home field advantage. Who wants to go up there in the wintertime, bro? Who wants to be up there in January and February trying to get to the Super Bowl? That's going to be a rough spot for them. Mm-hmm. The Vikings shocked the world last week, went on the road and won in Detroit, but they have a Ravens team that seems like they woke up and Lamar Jackson is back.
Yeah, and I think the Ravens are back, but I'm taking the Vikes here in kind of an upset. At home, I don't love McCarthy, but I watched his tape and thought he's better than what they've been playing with. He makes some plays with his legs. Vikings defense was excellent in that game. Tough place to play. I'm taking Minnesota.
The kid won a national championship throwing for 150 yards a game. He threw for 150 yards last week and beat Detroit right in the state where he played college. It reminds me of Jim McMahon a little bit. It's like it doesn't look right, but it's just really, really effective. All right, the Browns with that great defense and probably the defensive player of the year, maybe even the MVP, they go visit those Jets we just talked about.
Yeah, Jets are just too depleted, I think. I mean, I think in a couple of weeks, the Jets play the Saints, and that might get you the first pick in the draft in that game. I like Cleveland to win here.
All right, here's some good games we're talking about. Mike Vrabel takes the Patriots down to see Tampa and the Bucks.
I really like where the Patriots are at, but I think this is a tough one for them just because Todd Bowles versus a very young quarterback, I could see, and a not so great Patriot O-line. I don't like that matchup for New England.
I keep telling people that kid Drake May got sacked 7 times. I think he got sacked 5 times by Myles Garrett and still had a perfect passer rating. Those two things usually don't go together, but they absolutely did. Let's hit the Cardinals. And Jacoby Brissett, that's what I talked about. The first start for a quarterback, he lit it up, and now he's the starter for the rest of the year against the team that is the biggest surprise to me. And when you watch him play, you don't find any weaknesses in Seattle.
No, I think they might be the best team in the league, and I think Brissett gives them a better chance to win, but I definitely am taking Seattle here.
No doubt. Rams and 49ers. And before you look up, first of all, this game is always very super competitive. They had a Thursday night game that cost me a parlay about 6 weeks ago. I looked at these records and I'm like, the Rams are 6-2 and feels like it. It feels like the 49ers are 3-6. No, they're 6-3 and they're right there for this division.
Yeah, and I know that throw the records out and all that with these two coaches and teams. I just think the Rams are in such a better place right now with their roster and injuries and all those things. But whatever the spread is, I'd probably take the points just because that's how these games go.
No doubt. Speaking of teams with injuries and where they are, Washington hosts Detroit, a Detroit team that's probably a little teed off about how they played last week.
That's the type of team that comes back from a loss and just blows people out. So whatever the line is in this one, I'm laying it and I'm taking the Lions.
All right, a game that you will either see, I don't know if you're going to be there, but you'll see it Sunday night in LA, Steelers versus the Chargers, who don't have any tackles. And you think about Highsmith and Watt, and I'm almost scared for Justin Herbert.
Yeah, I'm a little shocked that the Chargers are favored in this one because it's going to be all Steeler fans on a Sunday night game. And you mentioned it, the O-line is just in such disarray. I think it's the worst O-line in the league right now against the Steeler front that's pretty nasty. I'm taking the Steelers here.
They did go ahead and get Trevor Penning from the Saints at the trade deadline. Not a great player. Obviously, the Saints wouldn't trade a former first-round pick, still on his rookie deal at that position. But around week 8, week 9, that's about as best you're going to get when it comes to that position, a guy that's played some games. So maybe Harbaugh can pull something out of him. And then really the game of the week, they're saving it for Monday night. Eagles versus those Packers that seem like they just play down to their competition, but then they play up to their competition.
Yeah, I hate the Tucker Kraft injury for them too. I just don't know who the go-to guy is going to be. Eagles brought in all those defensive reinforcements. I think you're going to see the fruits of that labor from Howie. I'm taking the Eagles here.
And this is where I think the Eagles start to separate themselves from the pack, and they say, nope. Everything runs through Philadelphia. Y'all gonna have to come see us if you want to get to the Super Bowl. If you want good coverage from the NFL, you can see us twice a day here on Locked On NFL. Tyler Rowland every single morning. The Madman will wake you up like a double shot of espresso, and then you slide through the barbershop. Ain't no telling what's in this cup, but you're going to get a whole bunch of me being in everybody's business. Matt is going off to go cover the Pittsburgh Steelers and do the Peacock and Williamson podcast. Make sure you tap in wherever he is for that coverage. We will see you. We don't take for granted your presence here. All 29 minutes today for Matt and I as we head into the weekend. You guys, thank the everydayers for being here. Y'all take care. We'll see you next time.